Everybody, this is Alessandro. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to give you a list of 10 tips that you should follow before starting your own animation, and it's going to save you a lot of time. The reason why I'm telling you this is that because, when I teach my students and stuff like that, one of the things sometimes it happens is that when they go towards blocking plus, polish, spline, they start to have certain issue about their animation. A lot of counter animation needs to be done, or problem with the rigs. And it takes them a lot of time to fix, and they could have entirely avoided all this problem if they would have checked their rig or their scene properly even before starting the animation, right? And today I want to show you the tips with you guys, so hopefully you're not gonna make those mistakes. And another things, guys, when I'm gonna do this one by one, I'm gonna link in the description of the video, on this video, some of the video I've done before where I'm talking more in depth about those issues. Okay, so we'll recommend you to go and watch them if you're interested about a specific topic. Let me start, okay guys, with the very first one that everybody should check immediately before you start animation, and of course guys, is gimbal lock, right? So let's assuming you're having your character that is walking around, right, and at some point is turning. Well, you realize that if I go to gimbal here and I turn this character here about 90 degrees, same with the foot, right? Now I have an issue that basically the feet, the axes are overlapping, right? And now if I want to go here and I want to, and of course I can move up and down forward like this, but I have two axes basically doing the same things, but I cannot go on the side, all right? And as I explained right now, guys, I have a video on my channel where I'm explaining in details what is exactly gimbal lock, why it's happening, and all the knowledge that will help you to go around this problem, and make sure you not gonna have basically those issues, guys, when you're doing your animation. And that's why it's so important that you fix your rig right before you start your animation, right? The second tips, guys, I want to give you, which is related to the first one, is that once you set the right orientation order, what you want to do, especially if you're having a reference or you're having your animation already in mind, what your character is going to do, test very quickly those rotation, okay? As you can see in this example, I'm basically taking only the torso, trying to follow the reference. Doesn't matter here about the beauty of the poses or stuff like that, but basically I'm just testing here the rotation to see if behaving properly, or there is any issue discussing, again, gimbal lock, right? And if it is, you should go and try a different method, right? Maybe a different orientation order. And same as the other one, I have another video where I'm going very in details about this, how to approach this one and how to fix it, and how to go around gimbal lock, right? Okay, guys, another things you should do before your animation is setting up the rotation of the direction of your master controller here, all right? Okay, so let's assume we have an animation where your character is gonna go from here, it's gonna run here, jump here on top of this box, then jump here and continue and whatever, right? So what I see people doing is basically say, you know what, okay, my character needs to, run here, I'm gonna put him in front of the box, and then they do this one, right? They do this, they rotate this one over here, right? They change the direction here, the rotation, go here, moving this one here, right? Of course, they will do the animation properly, right? So don't mind me, this is not an animation tutorial and everything, right? Then from here, what they will do is like, okay, I'm gonna, go like this. They will go here, right? They will go like here, right? And they will go here, pushing up, right? They will go to this other direction, right? And then to think about, okay, this is gonna be pretty easy to adjust the acceleration, deceleration, because the rotation here, it follows just one axis, right? So the acceleration here is gonna be handled by one axis. Completely wrong, guys, because if you go into the graph editor and you see the acceleration of this one is not only the Z, right, but it's this too, right? And the reason is because in 3D workspace, those controller, the axis of this controller, since this controller is pointed to this one, it's following the direction of this controller. So in a few words, if you have to adjust the acceleration, deceleration, and stuff like that, you have two axes that you need to adjust and manipulate, right? If you do only one, as you can see, it's going one direction. If you do only one, it's going to the other one. So it's a lot, it takes a lot more sometimes when you have to clean up the arc, acceleration, deceleration. If you do it like this, the better solution would be, let's reset everything to 0, right? And sorry, here as well, reset everything to 0. The best solution will be going from this one instead and using these ones and orient it in the right direction, because right now if you do this one and you're gonna go this direction here, you will see that is affecting only one axis, right? The X right now it's flat, right? And it's from here you want to just go here, is affecting only X. Obviously here needs to be flat, and the Z, as you can see, it's not moving, so it's a lot cleaner, or if it's moving just a little bit, right, depending how your axes are, right? So in this way, obviously it's going to be a lot easier to manipulate your graph editor and clean the arc, acceleration, deceleration, if you orient this one in the direction where mostly the character will go. Of course there are always exceptions, but this one will help you 90% of the time. Okay guys? Another things for your animation, guys, I always suggest you to use a rig that for the hands has this kind of controller that can automatically move the all those joints here, all right? Unfortunately, not every rig has something like this. As you can see, this one you have to do it manually, and it's gonna take you a lot longer to do something like this, all right? Of course, guys, if you find a rig that absolutely love it and doesn't have this function, I made another tutorial where I describe basically how to make this part of the rig by yourself, step by step. It's very easy, it's not very difficult. So I think it's something, if you follow this tutorial, you should be able to overcome this issue and add this functionality to your rig as well, all right? Another things, guys, that you want to keep in mind is when you're making your animation, if you need any constraint or you're using any prop, make sure you set up those properly, okay? For example, for the prop, I like to have a couple of circles just to have a secondary animation, all right, guys? So let me give you a quick example. I create a couple of circles here, and I want this one to be parent to this one, all right? Set it to 0, and I want this prop. First of all, you decide where you want to put it. You're gonna parent it here, right? And so now this controller move this one, and this one move this one here, right? And so normally, depending on what kind of prop you use, you will need a more complicated setup. But just again, make sure you test it before you start your own animation. Now let's assume the cases where I want to have this one. Imagine I want to have this one parented to the to this one, okay, to the hand, right? What I'm gonna do is select the hand controller, right, this one, okay, and go in animation here, constraint, parent constraint, guys. And basically, if I go here, I want to make sure the parent is to 1, right? So what happened, that is basically now this hand control the weapon, right? And of course, I cannot animate this one anymore because this one is basically constrained, right? If I try to do anything, it will snap back. But in case I want to do some offset animation, I can do it on this controller over here, right? As you can see, I can also shift it back and put the pivot somewhere else just by shifting it back, right? So again, you want to test those things before you do your own animation. Now imagine I want to attach the hands here to this prop, for example. Okay, I'm going to use the same principle. I'm going to parent this one to here, right? And I'm going to set up everything on 0. In this way, this controller will automatically align to this one. And going to go back, edit, unparent, right? Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to basically constrain this one to the small one, and I'm going to show you why. I'm going to select this one here, this one, constraint, parent, again, select here and make sure is set on 1, right? And so what I want to do now is basically take this controller, the big controller here, right? I'm gonna make sure align it. Okay, you guys can do a better job than me in this case, right? Oops, put it here. right? And this one will be constrained to the small one here. I'm gonna do again. Sorry, the big one. I'm gonna take this one and the big one, straight parent, right? Make 2, 1. So doing this one, what's happening is that okay, this one is moving this one. If I want to just offset the stick, right, the other hands still follow. But at the same time, you see, if I have to move this one, I can't because it's constrained to the stick. The hand, I cannot move it because it's constrained to the small controller. But what can I still do is to animate this small controller for adjustment. Okay, so in this way I can still animate the hands, right? And again, there are multiple ways to do constraint, guys, but I would recommend you test those things before you start your animation to make sure you get your constraint properly before you go into too deep into the animation, or else I can guarantee you will have a lot of problems later. One more thing, guys, that I want to point it out to you is that absolutely you need to know how to do efficiently IKF switch. I can see many times animator overcomplicating it, especially during the blocking. They start to put key all over around because they don't know how to make it properly. They make it snap when it's not absolutely necessary. The transition is always very ugly, so they struggle and they need to do keyframe by keyframe in polish. When sometimes, if you know how to set up properly with a few tips and tricks, you can have a lot of clean workflow. Okay, and again, in this tutorial, I'm gonna put into the link. You can find the solution that you're looking for, and I can guarantee you, once you understand how to do that and how understand how IKF it's working under the hood, you gonna make your life a lot easier, right? Next things, guys, I would recommend you to do is to fix your reference in the 3D space, right? Because sometimes you're looking at reference where the character is jumping around, doing flips, running, climbing, whatever. But in the reference itself, the camera is moving all over the place, right? So actually you do not realize how further a character is running or further a character is jumping. And sometimes, especially at the beginning, if you try to understand anatomy, speed, exaggeration, and stuff like that, and you try to stick a little bit longer into the reference, you will struggle to study those things, all right? Instead, if you fix your animation in 3D space and basically having your reference, your plane reference moving along to compensate for that, you will see how properly the character is moving, okay? And your reference is gonna be a lot stronger. There is still a lot you need to do as animator, but definitely, you know, you will have a better start if you do that. One more time, this video is gonna be in the description. Another things, guys, that I never seen people do it, but for sure you guys should do, is to test the poses with your rig, okay? Let's imagine you find a rig that you really love and everything. What people do most of the time is that they jump straight into the animation, where instead what they should do, try to test few poses from the animation that you're planning to do. Try to find out the poses that potentially could be more challenging and more complicating, all right? Maybe they're a bit of extreme, maybe they require a particular rotation in the shoulder or the hip, or maybe try to spot something, you know, poses that could potentially be problematic, right? And try, before starting your animation, take the rig that you choose and try to accomplish that pose as good as possible, right? And see, can I achieve this pose with this current rig? If yes, go ahead and continue with your animation. If the answer is not, well, maybe you need to design a better pose for your animation and says, okay, can I find a different pose to tell the same idea? Or maybe this specific pose is really important and I really need to achieve that. Maybe you need to change rig, or maybe you find out flaws about your rig and you realize, you know what, I like this rig, I like this character, but the rig is not user-friendly at all. And I will need to find a different one. Doesn't matter how much you like it, right? Because or else it will compromise your animation. And it's exactly, guys, the same things about facial expression. If you're doing an animation where facial expression is key for your performance, it's all about facial, well, you better start to test those facial before you jump into the animation as extensively you want to test it, to make sure you can achieve exactly that result that you need. Again, or else it's better that you look for something else. Okay, guys? I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was mostly a recap, but this is very important because, again, a lot of people, they skip all this step and they have a lot of problem when they find out, when they start to go into animation, right? Blocking plus spline. And I always have to tell them, if you would have done your due diligence, you would have found out those issues before, you would have fixed them before starting your own animation, and now you would have a much easier life doing your own animation, right? Animation is already complicated by himself. We don't want to overcomplicate it for unnecessary reason. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and see you next time. Ciao.